Hi, my name is Kate C. Wilde, and let's just talk a little bit about a question that I'm often asked from parents who have children on the autism spectrum and adults on the autism spectrum. And it's this: is my child bored? They're thinking their children are bored. And why is that? Often because people are looking at our amazing children and their amazing children, and they're thinking that they're not doing anything. So often, and maybe you experience this too, maybe your child or your adult likes to sit on the sofa and they're just sitting there and they're looking at the wall or up at the ceiling like this. And maybe you haven't noticed they're doing something else too. Maybe, with their hands, they're just gently rubbing their fingertips together, or maybe they're moving their toes, or maybe they're completely still. And you might be offering them things to do, like things that you think are really amazing, like blowing balloons or talking or playing with a game, and they're showing no interest in that. Or maybe your child is lying down on the floor and looks a little listless. And to you, it looks like they're doing nothing. So you interpret that as if they are bored. Or maybe they're walking around the corners of the room and they're picking up something for a moment. Maybe they pick up a book for a moment and they look at it and they drop it down. Then they look at a pen. They might even make a little doodle with a pen, and then they just lie on the floor for a second. And then they look at a number for a minute, and then they might throw it. They might even come over at you, look in your face, which is an amazing moment when our children look at us, right? And they might touch us, maybe kiss us or cuddle us, and then they're off again. And when they come over, we might invite them to do something. But nothing is, in the words of parents who I listen to and help, they say that nothing captures their imagination. So either I must be boring or they're bored. But in my experience, no, they're definitely not bored. And you want to change your mindset in a way, because what looks like to you that they're doing nothing is really them doing something that is incredibly helpful and useful for themselves. And what they're doing is they are self-regulating themselves. And sometimes our children, when they do that, they lie down and stare at the wall. And staring actually is a very, very intense activity. You should sit down and try it, actually. I invite you all to sit down like your children do and stare, because when you stare at something, really stare so much so that your eyes glaze over, things start to move. The things you're looking at move this way and this way. And actually, it gives your eyes an intense workout. It's actually something very, very active. But what our children are doing is they are regulating themselves. They're trying to find equilibrium in their bodies. They're trying to bring themselves back into balance, because they live in a world that is that they are incredibly sensitive to that. And I know a lot of you listening already know this, but our children have what I and Ron K. Kaufman, my colleague, calls an S4, which is a super sensitive sensory system. And they spend so much of their lives on overload that they have to go inward and regulate themselves in a particular way. So if your child is kind of wandering around the room, flitting around the room, going from one thing to another, they're not bored. It's actually their way of self-regulating. Or if they're sitting on the sofa and staring, or just looking, or they're lying on the floor. See, next time you see that, think to yourself, okay, so they're not actually doing nothing. They're actually doing something really amazing, right? They're self-regulating themselves. And this is something we want them to do, right? We don't want to get in, we don't want to kind of get them into something else in that moment. We actually want them to be self-regulating themselves, because then they're going to get to a place, right? Once they're balanced, right? And they know how to do that more than we do, right? More than we know how to do it for them. We don't actually have to do it for them. We just have to allow them to do it. So I would invite you first to think, oh, they're doing something amazing. They're self-regulating themselves. Okay, so if they're doing that, I don't want to get in the way. So I'm just going to sit down and do that with them. So if they're sitting on the sofa, maybe you sit on a chair in the room and you stare too. Really get into it, because if you try to do this as well, you'll realize that they're not doing anything, that they're not doing nothing, that they're actually doing something. And the same with if your child's flitting around the room, you flit around the room as well. And the amazing thing about our children on the spectrum is once they are self-regulated and they are balanced, they will show us by coming to us. They will come to us and initiate play, whether it's initiating a look or some physical contact, or even saying, hey, would you like to do this? And this is about first seeing that our children are not doing nothing. They're not bored. They're actually doing something amazing. So if you go try this, do share a comment in the comment section. That would be really amazing. And have fun being with your amazing children.